Great. Right. Now, the next person that is coming on the stage, I sadly missed yesterday, but I was told that some of you were laughing so much you were crying. So I had an opportunity to talk to David Hamilton, and he said he had the worst introduction, which he told you about yesterday. So I wondered how I might match it. How I could give him a really, really bad introduction. So I'm kind of building up to being really bad. Oh, there you are, David. And so here's David Hamilton. He's from Scotland.
Please speak slowly. Speak slowly.
Okay. That was 2 words shorter than the worst. Last time it was David Hamilton from across the pond. Yeah, well done. But done with the greatest love. Hi. So this is a completely different subject from the one I did last night. Who wasn't here last night, incidentally? Oh, quite a lot. Because I only have about 4 jokes. So I might end up using some of them again. Apologies to those of you. I did speak really fast last night, apparently, so you probably wouldn't have noticed if I tell the same joke anyway. This subject here, last night Robert mentioned that I've written 7.5 books. And I say a half because, well, maybe 7 3/4, because I've actually just finished the one called I Heart Me, The Science of Self-Love. And the cover is actually the I Love New York thing, but instead of New York, it's me. And it's about the science of self-love. And I started working on this subject, self-love, because I realized that I had absolutely none of it. None of self-love. It's actually quite typical of a lot of people. Most people I know on some level have what I call a self-love deficit, meaning quite a large deviation from self-love, self-acceptance, from feeling authentic and from needing validation, all these kind of things. And I had ignored the subject for the first 42 years of my life. Completely ignored it. In fact, being published by Hay House, I've spoken at the same events as Louise Hay a number of times, yet I've never heard Louise speak. And she always talks in self-love, and I always manage not to be in the audience. Somehow, I've just completely avoided the subject. And then, it was September 2012, about almost 2 years ago, and I was standing at the side of the stage. This is where it came to a head when I realized I need to deal with my own personal challenges and conflict. My major challenges in life is self-confidence. You probably couldn't tell because when I'm doing this is me doing what I'm comfortable. This is me doing what I do, my thing. So I enjoy this. But one of my major challenges in life is self-belief and self-confidence. And I was standing at the side of the stage, just about to speak after Wayne Dyer. And it was I Can Do It conference. It was a home gig for me, so it was like 800 people in the SECC in Glasgow, the Scottish Exhibition Conference Centre. It's a big, major arena place in Scotland. The biggest self-help conference had ever been in Scotland. And I was at the side of the stage. And it's funny because Wayne Dyer was just before me. He was getting a standing ovation, and I was next on. And I'd realised that I had saw this coming. Because 12 and a half years previous, I'd left the pharmaceutical industry. For those of you who weren't here last night, I used to be a scientist. I used to build drugs by sticking atoms together until I was inspired with the placebo effect, the power of the mind over the biology in many ways. And I'd left the industry, and I'd gone out and I'd done my first public speaking event. And I was so nervous actually before it, I partially wet myself. Fortunately, I was wearing black trousers. I don't always talk about that publicly. But anyway, I did my first event, and there was 13 people there. 9 of them were family and friends. 3 of them came because my friend Graham and I met them in a cafe the week before, and he persuaded them to come to make up the numbers. And they agreed if they didn't have to pay. So actually only one person came who'd responded to my 8 weeks of advertising in the Big Issue at £141 a fortnight. So I was out, including the hire of the Big Issue Conference Centre. I wanted my talks and my workshops to support charities of the homeless. And I was out about £1,000. And now you could view my first event as a dismal failure or as a huge success. The dismal failure clearly financially, because I had no idea how to market myself. In fact, I was so afraid of doing what I was doing that when I put my advert in the Big Issue, I said, come to this course. I didn't even put a phone number on it. I put an address. Please send a check to this address if you want to come. Who would do that? No website address, no email, no phone number. You know why? Because I was scared in case someone phoned me up and knew more than I did, and in case they wanted to know about the workshop and I couldn't answer the questions, and then maybe they would think I was a fraud. And I was afraid. So it's no wonder that only one person technically paid, and they only paid half price, actually. I didn't feel right about accepting money, you see. So you could say it was a dismal failure because I was, if I go on like this, I'll be broke. In fact, the following month, I cancelled an event in Edinburgh because no one had come. Also didn't put a phone number in. But I viewed it as a success because I realised that I'd had the courage to leave my job, a very well-paid job in the drugs industry, to follow my dream, to go with where my heart was leading me. And then I said, you know what, damn it. I thought I taught really well. I'd never spoken publicly in front of people. And here I was standing in front of a group of one person and family and friends talking about stuff that I wanted to talk about. And I thought, damn it, it was a success. And I remember saying to myself afterwards, walking along the street going, damn it, I'm going to make this work. I can do it. And I remember going, I can do it. And in that point when I said, I can do it, an image popped in my mind. At the time, I was listening to a lot of audios of Wayne Dyer because he was talking about kindness and compassion and love and making the world a better place. And an image popped into my mind. And it was Wayne Dyer was speaking at the SECC in Glasgow. He was coming off the stage to a standing ovation, and I was walking on next. And in my mind's eye, we went like that and high-fived. Here I was 12 and a half years later, SECC, Wayne Dyer's getting a standing ovation, I'm next on. And I'm thinking, God, I manifested this. How weird is that? I saw this coming. And I often wonder, do we make things happen, or do we sense a probability, and then we shape our reality to lead us to what we sensed was a possibility in the future? Anyway, I've written a book on that. It's a whole different subject. But you'd think, standing at the side of the stage, the fact that I had family and friends there who were here to support me for my home gig, this biggest event that's ever been in Scotland, personal development, you'd think I'd be really proud of myself. Actually, at the side of the stage, I felt so small, I could barely function. Hay House thought I was nervous. It was nothing to do with nerves at all. I just felt so small and insignificant. And if I could put into words the little voice in my head, it would go something like this. Who do you think you are? Get back home to Banknock. Banknock's a tiny wee village that I grew up in, a wee miners' village in central Scotland, very working class, about that size. Well, not actually that size, but if the map was anyway, small place. Get away back home to Banknock. Leave this stuff to the people of Erndorite. These people are important. These people know what they're doing. You're a fraud. Get away back home. And it was something like that. And as daft as it might sound, a memory, which I fully pieced together over the following few weeks, a memory came back to me. And I was 6 years old. And I was in the class at school. And the school teacher had asked us to bring in 5 pence. 5 pence, this was 1976, right, or 77. And it was for a school trip. And I didn't bring my money in. Not because I'd forgotten, but on purpose I didn't ask my mum and dad for money. Because as a child, you don't really know the value of money. 5 pence could have been a lot of money for me. And I didn't bring it in because my mum and dad were suffering financially. They were really struggling financially at the time. And my dad was in and out of work. My dad worked as a labourer on the building sites at the time. And in Scotland, the building trade slows down in the winter time. And so come maybe end of November, coming up to Christmas, all the newest workers get made redundant. They get paid off. So my dad would get paid off every Christmas. So the family would have no money leading up to Christmas. Then he'd get hired again end of January. So when it came to the following November, December time, then the people who most recently joined the company would be made redundant, which is my dad, because he'd only joined in January. So this cycle went on every year. And my mum was so stressed because there's myself and my 3 sisters. And I remember one night listening at the door. I could hear my mum crying from upstairs, and I came downstairs and I could hear my mum saying something like, "Oh, what am I going to do? Leslie needs a new skirt and David wants a cassette recorder and I don't have any money." And my mum was crying her heart out because she had no money and she wanted to help do everything she could for the kids. And I ran up the stairs to my bed and started crying, half out of feeling empathy for my mum and half out of feeling ashamed because I spent all my own pocket money on myself. And as soon as I got my 10 pence pocket money, I was over to the shop and it was all me. Everything, all the money was sweeties for myself. My mum never bought anything. My mum wore old clothes every day. When she was making dinner, she would put the 6 plates out and then she'd start taking stuff off her plate and putting them on everyone else's plate to make sure everyone else had enough. So I didn't ask my mum for the money. Because 5 pence, again, as a 6-year-old child, you don't know the value of money. So 5 pence could, for me, it was like asking my mum for a week's wages. And I just was not going to do that. So I didn't bring the money in, but the teacher didn't take it well. I thought she probably was a young, inexperienced girl at the time. And she said something along the lines of, "Well, if David Hamilton isn't good enough to bring his money into school, then we'll all go on the school trip without him and he can stay here." And I remember being made to stand in the corner, and all my classmates walked out to the front of the class and they got a big yellow badge. And it was yellow, and I remember it was some smile. It was like a sun or a sunflower or a smiley face. It was something bright and yellow. But you don't kids don't understand the complexities of adult decision making. You just take on board what you see as a fact. And the fact was, the badge meant you're special, and everyone else in the class is special except for me, because I'm standing in the corner. So as a 6-year-old child, what I'm taking on board is everyone's special except for me. And as daft as it might sound, I'm standing at the side of the stage, about to go on after Wayne Dyer, probably the best known inspirational, motivational speaker in the world. And in my mind's eye, Wayne Dyer's got a yellow badge that says I'm special. And so has Cheryl Richardson and Brian Weiss and Robert Holden and all the other speakers. They all have a yellow badge in my heart and mind that says I'm special, except for me. And I could barely function. It took over my nervous system. The events people at Hay House thought I was nervous because it was a Scottish gig. I wasn't nervous. I just didn't feel that I had anything valuable to say. I had no choice. I had to go on. I literally got pushed onto the stage, and within 20 seconds, I was forgotten because I'm doing what I enjoy doing, and I'd forgotten about it. But I realised that I need to deal with this because this is a repeating pattern that's came at me time and time again. If anyone had held my career back as a writer and speaker, it's been me. My own fear.